So let's look at the general overview of pronunciation of Arabic. So if we see here, if I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so things are more clear to read, we see that the phonological system in Arabic is made of 28 consonants. I would stop here, and in some weird books, you'd find that sometimes they say there are 29 consonants. It's a big topic and it's a big controversy that is still till today. But for most of the biggest books or most of the current literature admits that it's 28. So we'll stick with it. And we have six vowels in Arabic that are basically mirrors of each other. Three short and three long. We will get to know what long and short means in a second. Now, fortunately, 15 of these consonants, of the 28 consonants, have equivalents in English, as in they're not going to be that difficult to imitate and pronounce. And throughout this class, or future classes, we're going to introduce one difficult sound amongst the easy ones, because I don't want to hit you with like a bunch of difficult sounds that just it will overwhelm you because you won't be able to pronounce them like intuitively or naturally. You have to train yourself to practice. Um, the 15 letters that we're going to initially start with are in this table, and we will get to them when we in future classes. But today we're going to discuss four, these one and two and three and four, and later on we will move on to the next five letters. The vowels in Arabic are two groups, as we said, long and short. So basically, we have three pairs. So it's one sound quality that has different lengths, different volumes. One is long and one is short. And they're in pairs, three pairs. They're very symmetrical, very easy. Like if you compare it to other languages, like French, for example. Um, but today, in particular, we're going to discuss the short a and the long ah sound. Uh, Anything else I want to add to this? For starter, I'm going to just pronounce the sounds of these letters here, so you'd have just an idea when what I say or when I mention their names. This little like chair-looking letter is called dal, and it has the sound as d, as in day. This letter in particular proves an issue that it can be both a consonant and it can mark a vowel. Like in itself, it's not a vowel, but it can mark a vowel. And as you look here, if you're noticing that long vowels are marked by wow, but when we get to it, we'll explain. But I can explain it in the alif part. And a vowel for the sake of brevity or the sake of clarity, and the letter ba or b as in bake. Of course, wow sounds like w as in wake. Wow. Noon as in none, or nothing. N. So let's have more in-depth view on how vowels work or what are vowels. So basically, unfortunately, no one can tell you like the letter or the vowels in Arabic have an exact replica of when it comes to sound quality or how they sound like in English. In English, the vowel can assume many different sounds. And Arabic resembles that slightly, but not as extensively as English. The vowels may differ in quality, as we said. There's no exact correspondence between English and Arabic, but they may differ in quality and they may behave differently under certain circumstances. We would learn those in details when we get to future letters, how a certain letter can affect the quality of that vowel to make it sound a bit different. Um, Throughout this class, any approximation between English vowels and Arabic vowels are at best an approximation. It's not an exact replica or an exact sound. So, how do we deal with this problem? Practice. The only guide or the best guide to pronunciation, to proper pronunciation, is careful listening and faithful imitation. And I would like to emphasize the part where it says faithful imitation. Right now, all of you are muted, so there's no chance of being embarrassed or something. Try to imitate the sounds I make. Try to say it. Try to kind of say it out loud to be familiar how your throat or how your organs of speech produce such sounds. Because the more you practice, the more you force yourself to utter these letters or these sounds, the easier they become. Remember, speech in general is a skill. That's why we're not born speaking directly. We take time until we learn how to speak because our speech organs hear a lot and they try to imitate. And that's why, babies will start talking or gooing at the age of 3, and they start uttering actual words at the age of 4 or 3.5. Same thing with Arabic. If you're learning a sound that is not a sound that is you're not familiar with or does not exist in your native tongue, that sound needs a lot of practice because you're going to train your muscles, your whole organs of speech to produce this sound. I understand some sounds in Arabic may be very difficult and could be frustrating at point, but uh, you are not less than any people who actually mastered the pronunciations. And I've met many people who are not Arabic native speakers who speak very pristine Arabic, even better than some natives I know. So yeah, the Arabic as the long vowel when we say long, what we mean is basically sustained in length or in pronunciation. Um, and if we're going to be very objective about it and give it like a limit or give it like a number, we would say it's twice longer than the short vowel. That's why in English I wrote it like a double A because it's like double the sound of the sound in English. So the long vowel is roughly resembles the sound in ha. It's long. It's not short. It's not like huh. It's ha or tab. We'll get to a more detailed comparison when it comes to this table. But now I just want you to know what short and long means. Short is not only shorter in duration, but also differs in quality from It is less like of had, but ranges between the of bet and the o of but. It is in between, but you cannot put a point on it because it's a sound. So you'd have to listen to it to kind of like, okay, this is the short sound. Of course, as we said, description is not set in stone. Imitation is key. You try to imitate it as carefully as and as exactly as possible. Uh, and there's another issue is that the sound itself may differ from one speaker to another. Maybe people in Morocco would pronounce their vowels very differently from people in the Levant. So knowing a very standard or a very common way can make you distinguish between, oh, okay, is he pronouncing this as a long vowel or as a short vowel? And maybe later on we'll show you how this, even with natives, can prove a problem, especially when they're transcribing something. They're transcribing something they've heard into writing. They would write a long vowel as a short or a short vowel as a long one. One final point in this slide is what we call careful speech. Throughout this class, or throughout the future classes, I'll be strictly using careful speech, as in I would give every vowel, every consonant its own phonological right of pronunciation, of utterance, which is something I don't do usually on my daily life. In my daily speech, I would speak very comfortably, very fast, that I might even not pronounce vowels at all. And that's the case also in dialect. We don't have cases, we don't have vowels that are very obvious, like MSA. Throughout this class, we will try to be as faithful as possible to the careful speech, methodology. I'll try to be very careful in pronouncing and show you how the difference between the long and short vowels. Anyways, let's look at the table and try to I don't want you to get like or be confused like how do I pronounce this? No, no, no. All I want you to realize here or to listen here is the quality of the vowel. Like this is a short vowel here, as we said. It's basically a small stroke on top of a consonant, and the long vowel is also a small stroke on top of the vowel, but it is always followed by an alif. It is always followed by a stroke, a vertical stroke, and later with time we are going to drop using this fatha or this stroke here because we know that if there's an alif in the middle, it is definitely a long vowel. So let me just erase this so you know what I'm pronouncing. So if I look at this one here, how would I pronounce this word? As I would pronounce it as ban, ban, ban. But this one without the alif would be shorter, as in ben, 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 ban, ben, dan, den, nan, nan, wan, one. Like even here, we are saying that the long vowel or short vowel are basically the a sound. But see how different it is when I pronounce it in compared to English? Because this word sounds like when, which is which starts with O. So that's why I'm telling you, sometimes transliteration of words is not key, is not how you would be able to pronounce correctly. You'd have to listen and imitate and faithfully imitate. Basically, I want, at this stage, you're just a parrot. You are repeating everything you say, even if you don't understand what it is. So, I would, if anyone, does anyone want to actually give it a shot and try to pronounce this? You can raise your hand and I'll let you on stage. Of course, this question is for people who are uh, absolute beginners who have never attempted Arabic before. If you already know, I mean, this is pretty easy. Okay, Sophia, you're welcome. Okay, do you want to give it a shot? Okay, so let's start with this one. How would you pronounce this one? Yeah, it's ba. It's ban, ban, ban. More like longer, a little bit longer. I'll take it. This one. It's okay. This is, yeah, just make it short. How do you pronounce it if it's short? Mm, Ben, of course. Yes, exactly. Uh, let's try this one. This one is this consonant is the, and this one is na. So how would you pronounce it? It's like the name in English. Dan. Yes, Dan. Dan. This one is uh, done. Done. Exactly. So that's the very important difference on the length and quality of vowels. Right now, quality does not really pertain to us much. We're not discussing the quality as the nature of the sound. We're more focused on the length of it because that's more like quantifiable. We can quantify how long it is. Subjective, we'll get to the quality is more subjective, and we will get to it in a bit. Thank you, Sophia. I'm gonna turn you to audience. Okay, so let's jump to the next slide. Now we jump from general concepts into how to actually start, you know, reading things. These are very general info about Arabic. That Arabic is a right to left language. It's a Semitic language. We start from right to left. Arabic in script has no capital letters, as in the words of proper nouns, cities, uh, like proper names for people are not written with any form or different form of letters as English. Like you have to capitalize these letters. No, Arabic does not have such thing. But Arabic in script, each letter may have several different forms when it comes to writing, and later on we would get to it when we learn our first letter. We would know what kind of how these forms are classified and how these letters are kind of arranged. um, but it's very easy to it's an easy concept to grasp. It's not that complicated. Some letters though may prove a bit naughty, but hey. Uh, so the difference is basically, or the difference in forms, it basically depends on if the letter is connected to something before it, after it, or on both sides, or if the letter is a standalone letter, just like on its own. Some letters assume very different shapes, but with practice and reading and looking at them and just being familiar with how they look like, it becomes easy. Now we get to the problem where most of the learners suffer with is 99% of texts written in Arabic nowadays are without voweling, as you will not know what the consonant sounds like. Is it da? Is it du? Is it di? You don't know. Why is that? Because writing diacritics all the time is very time consuming, very bothersome. So we just do not write them. We know them by intuition. Um, but most of the text that is going to be used here and materials or content that is aimed at learners and books that ensure proper delivery of meaning, as like scripture, the Quran, the Bible in Arabic, all those are voweled. Because even for someone who is a native, they need to kind of know that this haraka is this one is this one, or this vowel is that one, so the meaning does not change. Because maybe we'll see later that one vowel, one short vowel, may change the meaning of a whole word. As we said, most of the Arabic books, newspapers, magazines, signs are entirely or mainly unvoweled. Now, one thing is about the handwriting convention. Some languages, like English, may have a very different printing versus like printed versus handwritten style. As in English, you might have cursive, like cursive, whatever. Like I'm a doctor, so excuse my handwriting. Um, and typed English is like a font, basically. Arabic has that thing, but the handwritten convention does not stray away from the original shape of the letter, of the printed letter. So even if you try to imitate how the printed letter, like here, is written, you are actually you'd have a better handwriting than most of us, because most of us have just this cursive handwriting that just looks absolutely messy. So if you even practice like copying these letters like as faithfully as possible, that is considered good handwriting, not bad one. So yeah, this is the convention about handwriting and about handwritten and printed script in Arabic. Okay, so for the sake of clearing this or trying to read this table, we'll have to learn few like names of nouns, names of consonants, and how they sound. So the long vowel is represented by the letter or by the symbol, like it's a stroke, it's an alif. And there's a lot of weird things I've seen being taught as alif has the sound of a glottal stop or whatever. What? This is what alif sounds like. Alif has no sound. Zero. Absolutely no sound whatsoever. In Arabic, it has two functions only. One is to be something like it's to be a placeholder for a letter that is called Hamza, which is like a small thing that is put on top of the alif. Hamza is also a consonant we'll get to by the end of these classes because it's very weird. Um, or as an indicator for a long vowel. But in itself, alif has no sound, as you cannot pronounce it. Uh, the next one, the, or the letter dal, is just basically sounds like the, as in dog, deed, day. So if I'm going to use the long vowel that we've learned, the alif as a long vowel, as like it's the sound, now I can use this in writing. I can create these combinations. I can write the letter dal and put an alif next to it, and I'll pronounce it da, da, da. I can just go and put another dal next to it, and it'll become dad, dad, dad. I can just go put another long vowel after the last dad, and it becomes dada, dada, dada. And I hope you really paid attention to this. Usually, when we end words in Arabic, even if it's a long vowel, we just don't give it the same length as if it was in the middle of the word, because it's speech final. I mean, if we're going to extend that sound to what limit. So usually in normal speech, you'd find that the long vowels at the end of the words are usually shortened. And this can be a bit confusing if you're a learner, but you can ask the speaker to speak more carefully, to give every sound its rightful right in terms of pronunciation. And most of teaching material, by the way, has the careful speech, as we talked about earlier, that they would like they would force themselves to speak more clearly or more faithfully. Uh, is there a reason why I'm giving emphasis on speech on ending the word? Yes, yes. I'm not here just this is not random information, but I'm trying to build a small little platform to later when we start actually reading, you would start asking, why did we pronounce it this way? Why did we pronounce it that way? And it the way you pause in Arabic, the pausal when you pause your speech in Arabic actually affects your pronunciation. It's not like English. Okay, so writing. As we said before, letters in Arabic are different when it comes to writing, as they assume different shapes. And before we start about this, like we started talking about the shape, there's this kind of small introduction that Arabic or in the Arab world, due to religious reasons, the use of painting and and just painting icons or religious icons is forbidden. So Arab architects and Arab designers usually used to adorn places of worship, very important places, with handwriting. And throughout the time, they have developed many, many scripts in Arabic that we today we can consider art. And it takes like years of apprenticeship, years of training until you become a master in such calligraphy and in such art, equal to the same level of technique and finesse that Japanese calligraphy has, that you spend 20, 30 years practicing it until you call yourself a master. The same exact situation happens in Arabic. In the previous slide, we have mentioned that combinations of letters, both in printed or handwritten convention, uh, must be connected, as in Arabic script is cursive script on steroids. There is no there are no gaps between letters. In special letters there are, but in essence, as a whole, it's just the whole script is cursive, as it's connected. And you'll see my glorious handwriting in a second. Uh, in this respect, there are two major categories of letters in Arabic, and this is where important things happen. One, letters that are considered non-connectors. And what do we mean by non-connectors? As this letter will never be connected to a letter that follows it. Maybe you have seen in the previous slide the way I wrote da, or I wrote the letter da. I did not connect it to the alif that comes after it. And when I wrote the next da, I did not connect it to the alif next to it, so it's all separate. It resembles English in this way, that every letter is disconnected. And we consider dal, the letter da, as a non-connector. It is a non-connector. Uh, but there's a thing. The non-connectors, they don't follow anything after, but they follow things, or things can attach to them. So I can write, these are different letters, but you see that the dal has attached to the one before it, but never attached to the one after. So even if I write another letter, it has to be separated. So, oh, this is not a dot, but yeah. So, as we said, a letter that is never connected to a following letter, the preceding letter may connect to it. So a letter that comes before it may actually connect. A connector is the exact vice versa, is a sticky letter, is a letter that wants to connect to everything that is either before it, after it, both ends. Maybe a letter can be joined from the both ends. So in Arabic, we have 6 non-connectors among the 28 letters of the abjad. So only 6 of them do not connect. The others do connect. The other 22 letters do connect from both ends, or one end before and after. Um, Now, there's something in Arabic that you might notice, that some letters have dots. either above or below. And these are important. And you have to be thankful that we are in the 21st century, because if we were studying Arabic just a few centuries ago, we would not have that feature. Arabic script was not like dotted whatsoever. So it would be up to guesswork to figure out which word is that. So some letters may have dots under, some letters have dots above, some letters have two dots, some letters have three, above or under. And we will get to know these letters when we like begin to write them. So letter Aleph is very simple, as we said. In the printed form, it's a very horizontal stroke. There's nothing special about it. And in writing, you just write it the same way. It's a horizontal stroke. From top to bottom, resting on the line. Now, resting on the line, resting like or not, is basically something you would learn with practice. You don't have to bother is like remembering, oh, is wow under the line or above the line? The more you write it, your hand automatically kind of figures out how the letter is written by writing it more and more. And the one we've learned before is the letter dal. The printed form is as you see, and the handwritten form is very simple. Like if I zoom in, I write it again, it's basically just a very kind of acute angle. Not that acute, but it's like a more of a, I don't know, an 70-degree angle. Uh, Now, there's a third letter we're going to be introduced to is the consonant wa. Remember that when I said that this letter can serve as a mark for a vowel, or a long vowel, to be precise, or can be a consonant in this case. As a consonant, it is the sound of w. The Arabic name for this letter is very actually fun. It's wow, or wow. And funny enough, the name wow has a long vowel. Like this alif in the middle is basically a long vowel. So notice how I pronounce it. Wow, wow, not wow, wow. Practice reading in the combinations. Okay, we're going to practice them. Okay, how do we write them? It's very basically very simple. Wow. We start with a circle and it has a tail. Circle with a tail. Of course, you don't have to be Picasso here. You don't have to be hyper realistic. Uh, Arabic script allows for a lot of liberty when it comes to script. As long as it can be legible, can be readable, it's completely fine. Like you don't have to be perfect. Um, And yeah, speaking of handwriting, there's another file I'm going to post in the lessons channel, the one above discussion, that has the PDF of this PDF, and along with it, there will be a handwriting practice PDF, which uses a script called Ruqa, a very modern way of writing Arabic devised in the Ottoman era, uh, to write Arabic in the most efficient way possible. You can print it or just use it on an iPad or something and try to trace the letters and see how they are written. So let's read the letter, these combinations. So notice that I did not put any diacritics here because now you know that if there's an alif present, it's automatically a long vowel. And if we are going to learn about the short vowel in a bit, the long vowel, as we said, is represented by the alif, but the alif, what it does, exactly what it does, is not indicate the sound, the itself. If we look more, if we look more pedantically at it, if we look with more details, if you go and open like hardcore or very like esteemed, very professional Arabic like textbooks or like grammar books, they will tell you like the alif. What it does is indicating that the fatha on the letter that precedes it or before it is long. Meanwhile, the alif itself has no sound. So what alif does is basically making this fatha longer. So I say wa, wa, wa. Oops, sorry. Wa, wa, and I would write it as wa, wa. Both are to me are acceptable. Although this one is not actually. I would erase this. So it's more of it's a downward slope. Uh, let's try another one. No fatha because we know the alif in the middle, or no sound, short sound, because I know that the alif in the middle indicates that the letter before it has a long sound. So I'll pronounce this as wad, wad, wad. Okay, this one is going to be an experiment. So we said the letter wow is pronounced as w, as wow, w, and we know how long alif sounds, how long vowel sounds. So how would I pronounce this if I put an alif here? Anyone can uh, like volunteer? Okay. Uh, okay. Here you go. You're going to be on stage. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you pronounce this? Give it like you're correct, but give it its own right of vowel length. Wawa, exactly. Wawa, exactly. Wawa. Okay, this one. How would I pronounce this? By the way, this one is pronounced as the. So mm, there's an alif here. There's an dawa, exactly. Dawa, dawa. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm gonna send you back to audience. Okay. So this one is also gonna be dada, dada, dada. Okay. So a question might like pop in your head. Okay, how would I pronounce all these if it was short voweled, as in there's no alif? Let's write this. Remember how we said it's wa, wa? This is wa. This one without alif would be wad, 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 instead of wad, wad. This here without the alif would be daw, daw, daw. But this one is dawa, dawa, or daw. This one is basically, if we remove the both alif, we end up with this, right? So it's gonna be dad, da, dad, dad. You, I hope the length of the vowel is very obvious. So far, does anyone have any questions about like the vowels, or how these two are pronounced, or these words are pronounced, or any questions in general? You're noticing more emphasis at the end of when there's a short vowel. We'll get to the stress in right now, actually. This is where we're talking about stress. So we've discussed the long vowel, and we've had a good idea on what short vowels are, but now we have to recognize how they look like. The long vowel a is basically an alif written in the middle of the word. Um, it is now to recognize the short vowel, and we call it fatha. The word fatha in Arabic comes from the root fataha. Fataha is to open. And if you realize, or if you can try to imitate the sound you would realize that you're opening your mouth. So that's why the word fatha came to be, as it's a more open sound. And that's a very accurate phonological term. Like they would tell you like, oh, a vowel is opened or round, but this one is opened because you have to open your mouth as like ah, it has like that openness quality to it. Uh, now throughout the whole Arabic writing convention, it is strictly written over consonant letters. Like you cannot have it any other place. Otherwise, it would not be a fatha, it'd be something else. And it's very simple. It's a small stroke on top of the letter. So if if I write whatever, مثلا, if I write like a word like this, forget about what it means, but or like how it's read. But it means he is writing or to write. Uh, if I want to put all the short vowels, I can just go like beep beep beep. Of course, that's would no the way the way you wrote it would be pronounced del del. Like he wrote it as this in the discussion. He wrote the word, and we'd assume that there's a fatha here. It's a short vowel, so it's del, del. But if you look at the letter name, it's dal, dal. Remove the alif, it's dal, dal. So we'd have examples as da, 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 short, dada, dada, dada. Okay, now let's be more adventurous. What if I'm going to end? This is the with a long vowel and end with a fatha, end with a short vowel. How would I pronounce it? Dada, dada, dada. If I remove the fatha, dad, 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 dad. And this is the letter wow. No, eagerly, the fatha is just emitted. Yes, it's just like it's a very short utterance of sound. Dal, da, dal, da, instead of dil or dul, dal. So this is the letter wow. Remember when I told you it can be a long vowel or indicate a long vowel, basically? Here is a proof that it's a consonant. Because if it was a long vowel, how would it accept another vowel? There's a fatha on it. And how would I pronounce it? Wa, 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 wa. Let's be adventurous and try to pronounce this. Wada, 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 wada. Now let's put a long vowel here and write it like wada, wada, wada. So I guess that so far the vowels long or short are kind of clear. If anyone has a problem with it, now it's time either to ask it by raising your question if you want to ask it in voice, or you can type it in discussion before we jump to stress, which is a very simple thing. Like no one is going to punish you if you don't master the stress in Arabic. It's completely fine. I would assume no one has any questions. This is either a good sign or a really bad sign. Okay, so we move on. Okay. Okay. So foreigner questions. Okay, that is what I want to hear. So let's talk about stress. What do you mean by stress? In languages, when I say stress, is basically the part of the word that is you perceive as being pronounced the loudest. By loudest, I don't mean shouting it. I mean just there is an upper tick in your tone. Like notice when I said the word tone, the t received my stress. I said tone. I didn't say tone. No, it was tone. Tone. The first syllable received the stress. Same thing in Arabic, but Arabic, because of how different short and long vowels are, there is different rules when it comes to stress. And again, I do not will like no one is going to punish you for like not mastering stress, because it's a perceived thing, and in dialects from one dialect to another it might actually be different. Some people in Iraq might stress the same word differently than the ones in Jordan, and so on. But the general rule of thumb is that if an Arabic word has a long vowel followed by a consonant, we say that long vowel is stressed. Uh, if that condition is not met, the first vowel whatsoever is stressed. What are these CA, CA? CA is just consonant, whatever letter there is, and this is the letter, and this is the vowel. So one A would refer to short vowel, and the double A is a long vowel. So let's review the the conditions. So if I have a long vowel followed by a consonant, this one, okay, there's consonant short vowel. Okay, this rule is not met. It will fall to the first vowel. So this it will like we will fall back to this first vowel, not the long vowel, the short vowel. So what happens is I would say wada, wada, wada here, dawa, dawa. Notice how it's like, there's an upper tick of my pronunciation. Dawa, dawa, dada, dada, dada. Of course, it might not be perceived as accurately as you might think, but it's subtle. And the more you listen to it, you are going to perceive that stress more accurately. You develop that tone for Arabic. Uh, but now, if we look at this one here, we would notice that the first example has been fulfilled. There is a long vowel followed by a consonant. So dad, 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 wad, wow, wow. Of course, the stress relates very heavily, or kind of is connected very heavily with careful speech. If I'm speaking so fast, I would sometimes not stress words, or not even be self-aware that I'm misusing the stress or misplacing the stress in a word. But for the most part, this is not something you learn actively, but this is something you learn passively by basically listening and trying to talk and listen to people talking, especially like natives or who have good pronunciation. This one, of course, the second rule or the second condition is met. There's a short vowel, there's no long vowels, so I would say dada, wada, and dawa. 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 It's very short. Let's jump on the first phonological phenomenon, or the first script phenomenon in Arabic next to fatha and long vowel. Basically, we've learned about vowels, but what happens if I want to say that this consonant does not have a vowel? This is like a condition that happens in Arabic. And you see this sukoon later on in future classes. You would learn how notorious this sukoon is, and how Arabs devised many things to get rid of it in when it comes in certain conditions. But I want to jump like in the future and give you this on the side, and you're not allowed to like you're not like forced to memorize it or learn it. But in Arabic, two letters, like if we refer to the word consonant by C with a sukoon, we'll get to know what it is. Basically, it means this consonant has no vowel. If two letters come with a sukoon next to each other, this cannot happen in Arabic. There's zero chance of this happening. It happens, but it is in extreme conditions. And usually, most of the conditions I've researched relate to poetry, because poetry is basically you're trying to bend language to music, and one of them has to break. You cannot break the music, but you can break the language. So, and this is in future we would call it in details, and we would call it حكم التقاء الساكنين, or the meeting of two sukoons, and we would discuss it in detail and see how it's applied and see how it manifests. But for now, this is just keep it as a mental note. So the word sukoon in Arabic would mean or translate to something as stillness or tranquility or silence. and anything that is calm or that makes you calm. And that's why we call people or the residents or the inhabitants of the house sukkan, because they go into this place and, quiet down, like, tone down a little bit. It's not as active. Uh, but in general, the root of sakana, or the sin, kaf, and noon, would collectively mean something relating to calmness or something that is very quiet, not anti. You would have a lot of problems. Sorry, and I digress, but Ulk has asked a very good question. How would you pronounce that when there are two sukuns? It would be difficult. Arabs just do not like the consonant clusters. Consonant clusters, which are like two consonants with no vowels in succession, is very frowned upon in Arabic speech or in Arabic utterance rules. Um, this is a more advanced tip. Also, just popped in my head. For the more advanced, folk among you who kind of read Arabic or learned a little bit of reading, you would notice a lot of words begin with an alif that has no hamza, like the word ism. Sorry, ism. Now, notice how I pronounced the initial or like the beginning of it. I pronounced with uh, and this is hamza. And we call this hamzat wasl. And usually you would find it in scripture or Quran as like with a sad, a small sad on top of it. Why was this alif here? Because ism, if you look at the scene has sukun, and you cannot start with a sukun. Basically, vowels is a burst of air that allows the sound of the consonant to show. So if you have a consonant that has no air that is being pushed in your speech, the organs, like speech organs, you cannot pronounce it. So they had to invent an imaginary hamza that gets deleted if something comes before, which something comes before means that there's a vowel that can share some of that phonetic ability to the scene. As in the first thing we say, Bismillahi, sorry, Bismillahi, Bismillah. It's kasra, and of course this is more advanced. Uh, we'll go back to our topic. In Arabic phonology, a sukun on top of consonant notes the absence of any vowels, marked by the special symbol, which is basically a small, tiny little circle on top of the consonant. A word can never begin with a consonant with a sukun. Zero chance. Like if someone actually brings me a word that begins with a sukun, I will travel to wherever they are in on those globe and hand them a special plate of cookies. It's impossible, and it's a hill I'm going to die on. Um, but as we said, sukun can occur in the middle of the word or in the end of it, because we said that the sukun, the pronunciation of the letter relies on the vowel of the word before it. It lends it that little bit of air that you use to speak, to utter or pronounce the sound of it. Otherwise, you cannot pronounce it. So let's try to pronounce these. We learned that the alif here means it's a long vowel, and this letter is dal. So we would say it's dad, dad, and I pause. Dad. Okay, now let's look at this one. This one is tricky. How would I pronounce this? It's the. This one is, I cannot pronounce it unless if I pronounce the one before it. It's dad, dad, dad. But this waw has a fatha. So how would I would go dadwa, 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 dadwa. Notice how this like in the middle, this dal in the middle relied heavily on the fatha of the letter before. And we would get to it in a different class, in a future class, but if the case was different, if the dal was sukun, no, no. Okay. Let's keep that to when we get to discuss gemination or tashdid. Another uh, concept of stress, or another idea of stress we can discuss here. So a short vowel followed by two consonants receives the stress. So a short vowel followed by two consonants, it would receive the stress. So if we're going to point which one receives the stress here, it's going to be this one, because this is the vowel that has two consonants received. See that this C has no vowel because it has sukun. So how would I pronounce this? Does anyone in the audience want to give this a shot? Maya. Okay. You are going to be on stage. Hello, Maya. Hello. So yeah, how do you attempt pronouncing it? Uh, Dawdawa, exactly. Dawdawa. Dawdawa. This one. This might be a tongue twister, but hey. Yeah, yeah, give it a shot. Wadwada, exactly. Wadwada. That's exactly perfect. Thank you, Maya. I'm gonna send you back to audience. So, so I'm going to pronounce them again, so everyone just gets more familiar with the sounds. Uh, do, doa, do, doa, do, doa, do, doa, wadwada, 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 wadwada. Okay, now let's be more daring. Let's say this word becomes what? How would I pronounce this? Anyone wants to give it a shot? No one wants to give it a shot. Okay. So how would I pronounce this? Wad. Okay, wad. But here the waw is a long is the basically the fatha on the waw is indicated as a long vowel by the alif. So how would I always say it? I would say wad wad or wad wada wad wada wad wada. Wad wada. Eagerly. What is the difference between dado and the do? Can see these. Okay, let's try to pronounce it. So you wrote that. What is the difference between this one and, well, basically the same, but one has sukun written and one doesn't. Dadawa, dadawa, and dadawa. They're basically the same. So I can just put the sukun. I mean, it's not necessarily sukun. Could be another vowel, but now we're just discussing the sukun. So is it clear, Igli? And we would read it here too. So it's dadawa, dadawa, sorry, dadwa, 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 because there's no vowel that I can pronounce. I cannot physically pronounce this. That's why it's throwing me off because I just don't know how. Um, the next one would be Dauda, Dauda, Dau, Dauda, 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 Dauda. I made it long here, but just to emphasize the sukun. Dauda. This one is tricky actually. Like I have to think about it myself. Wawada, wada, wada, wawada, wawada, wadawa, wadwa. Sorry, wadwa, 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 wawda. So this one is wawda actually. Yeah, wawda. You would know that I'm having a problem with this, but soon enough you'll know why. soon enough. Because usually, if something like this happens in Arabic, we would basically merge the letters together. And we will get to it when we get to something called gemination or tashdid. Second column, this one. Yes, Ulk. Do you want to go to stage and ask it, or do you want to type it? Okay, you're typing it. Okay. Okay. Let's. Okay, I'm waiting for Ulk to ask the question, but meanwhile, we can just jump to our first champion of the letters. And at this point, we're almost done with the. We said the rule that a short vowel followed by two consonants. In the second column, could you specify the vowels and the consonants? Yes, the vowels and the consonants are here. See, C is a consonant. It stands for consonant. And if there's an A, that's a fatha. So it's like an ah. It's a short ah sound. And this C refers to the dal that has a sukun. And the consonant waw with its fatha. And it's usual, it's very useful convention to or it's a useful thing to learn this method, because if we keep going in the future, inshallah, and we would learn about verbal forms and nominal forms and how we derive nouns and verbs from each other, this way or this style is going to teach you how we employ patterns and just fill in the blanks with the root consonants, because Arabic in the end is a very Semitic language, and a lot of words can be traced back to a three-letter root, like the word kataba, ka, which is the root for writing, basically. So we have kitab, which is book. We have maktab as office. We have maktub, which is it is written, something that is written. We have katib, which is writer. So if you notice, like it's a different template, but the same root letters exist: the kaf and ta and ba. Of course, this is a bit too advanced, and we will get to read all those letters when we get to them. But I'm just giving you a feel for the language. Let's jump at our first champion, the letter ba. The letter ba is basically it exists in English. It's the b sound and boy book. Now we've learned three letters so far, but we did not learn them uh, officially. We have learned that we have the letter dal, which is a non-connector. It only connects to these things before it. And we have the letter alif, which is also a non-connector. It does not connect to something behind it or after it. It only connects to things that is before it. And we have the letter waw, which also only connects to things before it. We will get to them in a bit. Now, the letter ba is different. The letter ba is one of the sticky ones. As we said here, the waw and dal are considered non-connectors, letters that cannot be connected in writing with the following letter. Ba, as we said, is a sticky one, can be joined, has no problem with it. And it assumes different shapes, not entirely different, but it takes different forms, so to speak. Uh, and when we write it, like if we write it on its own as a standalone letter, I'm gonna write it in red, we would just write, like, draw a small boat and put a dot underneath it, or a smiley face with a dot underneath it, you know. But once we connect it to something, we would write it with, you see, this is the b, but it's connected to different letters. So it just, the boat gets cut in half, and you'd use the first half of it. And of course, the dot remains, the anchor remains. So as you see here, the ba is connected to the alif, the ba connected to the dal, and the ba connected to the waw. Now, if I wanted to connect another ba after these, I would just write it bab, and I would pronounce this as bab. bab, which is your first Arabic word, because most of the previous words were just random combinations. But this one is an actual Arabic word that means door. This is also a random combination, or actually, it might have a meaning, but it's just, I don't know. It's badaba. Sorry, no, sorry. It's badaba. Oh my god, it's very different. It's very weird. Um, ba badab badab badab, and this one is baub baub baub. Actually, a funny one. Yeah, I should have thought about this when I was making these combinations a bit harder. Anyways, uh, when ba happens to be joined to both the preceding and the following letter, we basically chop the whole boat. We said that it could be initial, as we started with, when letters connect, when there are other letters that connect to it, like following letters, like being as we said here, dal. But let's say I want to write, or let's say I removed the alif from bab and I wrote ba. Okay, this is the final form. And let's say that I want to write three ba connected to each other. So this is the first ba, second ba, and third ba. Ba. Notice the middle one, it lost the boat, but it kept, like, the bow of the boat. So it's just the tip of it. So ba, and there's something before it and something after it. So we would review the isolated form. So if it stands alone, if let's say it's after the letter wow, the wow does not connect to it, but it's the end of the word, so it will have to be in its isolated form, and we call this isolated or independent. And there's another case where it's connected to something before it, and we would say, like, okay, something before it, we would go like this. Oh, sorry, before it. So something before it, like let's say another ba. Actually, why did I delete that? So this is the one before it. Something after it. Let's say whatever is after it, and then call it? Both ends will be just, you continue. Uh, as we said, when it happens to join to both preceding and following letters, it's written as, okay, the baba. Finally, when ba is joined only to the preceding letter, the letter occurs in the terminal position of a word. It takes the shape, it retains its full shape again. We can notice that the form occurring as the last letter of the word and after a non-connector is the independent and standalone form. The joined forms of letters consist of only the distinctive part, as only the things that make it distinguishable from other letters. A certain shape, its dots, if any. Now, if we look at the table, it actually might be a lot more simpler than what I've written up there. All four shapes are written on the line. So let's look at the letter ba. If we look at it as an independent form, it would be written like this. And daba, 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 daba. This is the ba, daba, daba. If joined to preceding or previous letter only, as we call it a final position. Uh, it would be like whatever is before it, and then you would end with, the ba. So baba, 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 baba. We are joined to the following letter, and this could be this is initial. This is like basically you begin with the letter ba. It would just be half of the boat. So as bab, bab, baba, bab, baba. And one last the end the last case is when it's joined on both ends. So it would lose half the boat, but it would leave, like, the the little tip of it, and of course the dot underneath it. And the example here would be pronounced baba, baba, because fatha and a long vowel. Alif, it's baba, baba. Now, you see this convention or you see this paradigm that there's an independent, there's a join to previous, join to following, and join on both ends. This will apply to all the letters that we consider connectors. This is just like every connector letter would have basically the same concept of forms, that they either are independent, standalone, or join to something before them, join to something after them, or join from both ends. I think the letter ba does not warrant anymore. There's nothing special about it. It's not one of the fancy, special, popular ones. So we can jump to the letter noon, which is a fun one. I love the letter noon. The letter noon represents the consonant n, as in now. The yeah, wait. The written forms of the letter noon takes the almost identical shape to the letter ba, but the letter noon, when you write it on like in its independent form, you realize that it's more curvy, it's more rounded than ba. Ba is flat, but noon is more smiley. You know, it's like a almost a sociopathic kind of smile. But this one is like a normal smiley face. And as I said, the same paradigm applies for noon and as it applied for ba before. We have an independent form. We have joined to previous and joined to following and joined on both sides. And let's see how it's written. So the noon on its own, this I would pronounce this as dana, dana, dana. And the final noon, or in the final position, or joined to something before it, uh, this would be ben, 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 ben. Now, funny enough, this word, if you change one vowel, it would mean coffee beans, um, which is dhamma. Ooh. If I say bun, it's actually coffee bean. Um, and this one is, or this shape is when it's joined to something that follows it, or it connects to something that follows it. And how do I pronounce this? Naba, 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 naba. Naba is actually a word that means to act on behalf of someone. It's a verb. That's why we have the word for minister in government. It's called naib. He is acting on the behalf of the people, or he's an official that is working for the people basically. Uh, Joined on both sides. Basically, it's the same story with the ba. It retains the tip here and just like loses all the like all the billy is lost basically. So how would I read this? There's fatha on the ba, so it's ba. There's fatha on the noon, there's na, and the waw has an alif after it, so it's a long vowel ah. So banawa, 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 banawa. Okay. I think we're almost. Oh, voicing is going to be a bit. It's a bit difficult. Not difficult, but it might push us when it comes to time. Okay. Reading practice. Does anyone want to come on stage and read like the first row, like the first row of letters? Anyone? Anyone feels, or anyone still has energy to actually do that? Oh wow. Okay. Okay, Ulk, come to stage. Well, let's see. Hello. Yeah, let's start like from right to left because it's Arabic. Yes, exactly. Bana, of course, yes. Danaba, Yes. And this one, dawaba. Yes. Dawaba. Okay. Thank you. That was perfect. Okay. Anyone wants to go and take the second row? Come on, guys. It's a team effort. No one? Okay, I'll do it. Okay. Here we've seen this before. It's dana, dana, naba. This one is funny sounding. I had fun making this word. Nab naba, nab naba, nab naba, nab naba. This one is even more funny because it's nab nab, nab nab, nab nab, nab nab, like nab nab, nab nab, nab naba, nab naba, nab naba, nab naba. Let's go here. Let's assume that the wow has sorry, a fatha for the sake of making it more like more obvious. So I would pronounce this as nadawa, nadawa, nadawa. But this next one is there's no fatha here. There's no need to put a fatha in the first place because I know that it's a fatha by the alif. Otherwise, it would not have. It would be a fatha long vowel because of the alif. Otherwise, I would just pronounce it like this one, nadawa. But here it's banawa, banawa, banawa because the waw is a long vowel, a long vowel fatha. Here is bawaba, 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 bawaba. Aha, this one is tricky. Dawan, 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 dawan. Here is badwan, badwan, badwan. This one is also a funny one. Dabdab, 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 dabdab. Here is badwana, 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 bandana, bandana, bandana. Okay. Now we have voicing is going to be the last thing we're going to talk about today because we've been almost an hour, like a full hour doing this. Uh, Voicing is a phonological term, and it's nice to learn a little bit of phonology, the actual terms, because it will benefit all of us to kind of start looking at sounds more objectively. Because when I tell you it's voiced, you will instantly know that, oh, this sound then has this feature or this kind of way of being pronounced. So this is was voicing. Look, I just saw your question. I'll finish voicing and get back to it. Um, so once we start learning few phonological features, uh, explaining the tough sounds in Arabic could be or could give you a clue as where from the sound happens and how do I make it happen. Because most of the people I've seen complain of like, how do I pronounce this letter? How do I pronounce this one? Has anyone have tips on how I can make my mouth make that sound or make my produce certain sound, like especially the letter ain, letter qaf, letter dad. These sounds require training as much as require to know them. It's basically, to me, it's these sounds require a skill that you have to train and develop. And voicing, or knowing what voicing is, or few simple terms, phonological terms, may actually help you reach that goal. But voicing, when I say the word voicing in phonology, basically it's a feature of a sound, and we will get to know how that manifests. So initially, we speak by exhaling air from the lungs through the windpipe and the throat, then out of the mouth. It's from your lungs, throat, voice box, and then mouth. You let it out. At some point along the way, the stream of air is modified, and this is basically how we speak. Basically, the fine muscles of speech uh, contract. Your tongue aids in this process. Your lips, uh, the way you kind of tense your mouth, the way you kind of the back, or the very deep part of your mouth, all help together to produce sounds, whatever they are. Uh, the airstream can be stopped completely and then released, producing a slight explosion of air. This is called a stop consonant, or simply a stop. And we will get to this word soon enough when we discuss the Hamza. We call it a glottal stop. The English P, for example, is a stop. Try, like right now, everyone is muted. I cannot hear anything. Try, and try to say the English word, or like the English combination of letters, pa pow, pa pow, and try to put your hand in front of your mouth. You would notice there's a burst of air that just came out. Basically, an explosion of air that happened. Pa pow, pa pow. Like even if I put it in the mic, you would hear the air puff in the mic. Like, and this is one type of consonants we just called a stop. So this one is called a plosive because there's an explosion of air. Another kind of consonant is the fricative. The fricative, from the name, when you hear the word fricative, you'd hear like you would imagine something that is, it causes friction. There's something that just rubs with something. Basically, it produced by only partially blocking off the airstream so that some air does pass, but with friction. The example is the letter th, or the cluster of th, as in think. Th. Okay, when I say the word think, or I make the sound th, look at, like, try to do it yourself and see how your tongue kind of does not block, but it just touches your teeth slightly to allow a little bit of air to come out. And basically, that little tiny, almost blocked stream of air produces the sound th, 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 uh, where the tongue channels the air through a narrow passage at the upper teeth. Um, okay, now this is where voicing happens. This is actually what I mean by voicing. All these are just kind of like words that we would come to see later in letters. Now, let's look at the windpipe. The windpipe is basically, for the gentlemen amongst us, it's basically where your Adam's apple is, or how we call it, the larynx. For the ladies, you have to look for the Adam's apple. You do have it, although it's not as prominent as in the males. It is there. And basically, it is the bony structure in the middle of your neck. This is where your voice box is, which is where your larynx is, where you have your vocal cords, basically. And the vocal cords are basically just two tiny muscles that open and close to modify the stream of air. Uh, Now they can be relaxed as the way you pronounce the sound s, s, s. When you pronounce the letter S or s, 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 that s sound, that s, there's nothing happening in your voice box. It's just the sound is purely coming from between your teeth. It's s, s, s. Actually, my noise cancellation is blocking off the sound because, anyways. But if you try to say the word the like the word script, s, s, the s sound is completely upper in your mouth. But now I want you, and do this as an experiment. I want you to put your finger on your like on your larynx or your voice box, and try to say the buzz noise, like buzz, zzz, zzz. You would notice that your larynx is vibrating. So, by virtue of this discovery, we can tell that the S sound or the S sound is unvoiced, while the Z sound is voiced. And this is the experiment I want you to do. And from now on, when you ever learn a new sound, I want you to do this. I want you to try to say the sound with your hand on your voice box to see if it vibrates or not. If it vibrates, you can tell like, oh, this sound, even if you don't know the name of the letter, but this sound is voiced or unvoiced. And why is this important? Because in English, we have an unvoiced pair as the S, and a voiced pair, or sorry, an unvoiced sound or a voiced sound, and they come in a pair, or like voiced versus unvoiced. Same thing exists in Arabic. Some letters may sound the same, but they differ entirely on the feature of them being voiced versus unvoiced. So we do have these pairs in Arabic, or these antagonizing pairs, basically, and it will make learning these sounds or trying to quantify them uh, objectively a lot more easier. Uh, okay, so punctuation marks is a very almost trivial, but it's worth mentioning because there's something very important: is our question marks are inverted because it's a right to left language. But these you're not like required right now to know the names of them in Arabic because this is like very minor detail. But a full stop or period in Arabic is called nuqta. Nuqta is just a dot at the end of the sentence. The use case is very similar to the one in English, and also our comma in English it's like this. In Arabic it's the you know absolutely reversal, like it's upside down technically. This one is a question mark. We call it علامة الاستفهام. علامة الاستفهام. And as we said, it's inverted uh, in contrast to the English one. علامة التعجب, well, if you want to call it inverted, you can invert it as much as you want, but it's the same. Okay, so lesson two, we will stop here today because I think this was enough information for today. We've learned 3 or 4 letters. We've realized how we learned how long and short and long vowels exist or behave in Arabic. We've learned 3 letters. Four: the ba and noon and waw and dal and alif, if you want to consider that letter. Um, Next time, mostly tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. server time, hopefully, and 11 a.m. my time. We will continue, and we would learn tomorrow. We would learn 5 letters. Fortunately, all of them exist in English, and we would learn the second pair of vowels in Arabic, the oo sound and the long oo sound. And as we've learned about sukun in our first, we're going to learn about something called shadda. Shadda means to stress or to kind of double. So, yeah, we would learn about shadda, and mostly, inshallah, we would be able to finish the whole alphabet in like 4 or 5 lessons maximum, like 2 weeks, and then we will jump into elementary Arabic, or sorry, like beginner Arabic, as we start to read more, uh, participate more in reading. When we finish the alphabet, I would expect everyone from the people here or people who are going to join to actually take on stage and read. Um, what else? We will learn how to form questions, answer them, how a little bit of grammar, and we could add an extra reading classes in the uh, we'd add more we'd add more reading material, especially like we can, if you guys or if you're motivated, and this is more for the like beginner class who have read some grammar but lost, we can have like a children's story, and we can start to break down the grammar, to break down why this is this way, why is it in oo, not e sound, why does it end this way. It's a more heavy on the grammar, but it can kind of explain things to you, how syntax works in Arabic. We can do that, but unfortunately, I am governed by my work, and I cannot really do this during the weekdays. So most of this will occur um, on the weekends. Yes, Kinder Penguin. Yes, in just a few minutes after we conclude our class, I will post the exact same PDF with all my notes, with all the scribbles I've written. In the lessons, I will create a thread, and along with it, there will be like a sheet to practice Ruqa Arabic. So you can, on your free time, you can use it on your iPad, or you can print it and use a pencil, so you can erase and write it over and over again until you develop like the hand muscles train on how to write it. Uh, Now I have recorded this